Very much, Ibrahim Bello, for that background report on review of 7-year moratorium on tertiary institutions in Nigeria. We already have our guests seated in the studio for our conversation this morning. And first on the list, we have in the studio Professor Andrew Haruna, is the Secretary Committee of Vice Chancellor of Nigeria Universities and President, Nigeria Academy of Letters. Professor Haruna, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Good to have you.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right.
We also have Dr. Philip Ayab, an educationist. It's good to see you live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks
Good
for
morning,
joining
Nigerians.
us. Thanks for joining us.
All right. So let's kickstart our conversation this morning. We've heard about the 7-year moratorium that the federal government has placed on the universities in Nigeria. And currently, Nigeria has 72 federal universities, 42 federal polytechnics, and 28 colleges of education, in addition to hundreds of state-owned and private tertiary institutions, as well as specialized schools, such as colleges of agriculture, health sciences, nursing schools for a population of over 200 million people. Are these institutions adequate, for over 2 million aspirants? Professor Aruna.
Well, I will tell you it's not adequate. That's one. But even if you say they're adequate, the material you take from primary, secondary school to these institutions, are they prepared for that? So if government says putting a moratorium over the establishment of new universities, I think it's just an afterthought because of perhaps pressure. The few ones that are in existence have not been funded well. There are no lecturers. There are no equipment. The facilities, nothing to write home about. So if you say you are not going to establish more universities, I don't think it is a well-thought program. There is a pressure. You realize that even the few ones you have established, you are not funding them well, and the lecturers are not even there. And nobody wants to go into the teaching job because the way we are handling our academics. So I think, well, since this is the day where politicians do what they like to do, I think they want to come with a political solution and to say that we are doing something well.
When you say there are pressures coming, forcing, twisting government hands to take this decision, where are the pressures coming from?
So coming from the public. Because the public are saying, you are not funding the universities. And more are being established. And there are some universities who don't even have enough students. Because the university is not more attracting the young ones to go there. And if government is establishing universities, especially in this generation, you see, before, universities were established from executive councils. Today, universities are established from parliaments. So universities have become constituency projects. And everyone who moved a motion for the university to be established, even though he may be in parliament, try to own it. He would like to own the vice chancellor, he wants to own the registrar, he wants to own everything. Then at the end of the day, even if projects are to be sent to the schools, the same person who moved the motion for the establishment of the university, if the president has assented to it, will like to be like the monarch. So because of that, definitely there are pressures. Pressure from those who work within, the instability within, and I don't think government is able to handle what they are facing.
Okay.
Yes.
So you think that universities are not attractive to the young ones now? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, but yes, they are not attractive.
Okay.
But they want the paper qualification.
Okay.
Everyone wants to have the university experience, but they are not there for knowledge. They are there to get the paper so that they can use it for something else. But university is not a paperwork place. It's a place where you have intelligent people who seek for knowledge's sake. And they are involved in their hobby. And this hobby is supposed to bring solutions to problems in our society.
Okay.
So that we can conquer our environment.
So that we can conquer our environment. I like that when you say that. It's an alarming situation, Dr. Ayab. very alarming situation. And with this moratorium, you know, what in your opinion is the main objective of this moratorium? What do they intend to achieve with that?
So, yeah, from the feelers, because I tried to read out what people were saying, and I followed the conversation that the minister gave when he was talking about a university that had just about 800 students with over 1,000
1,200
staff.
So, yeah, when you look at that, you can say for sure that we are not being proactive in terms of strategic planning. We should be talking about one academic to a ratio of 45 students, which is the practice in South Africa and other places where
Ghana, Togo,
where things are working within Africa, Kenya, and a few other places. Now, we've not been able to actually plan that. As Professor Haruna said, so university establishment has become a political tool for recognition. Because even the locations of some of the universities would be a reason why students will not be attracted to go there. So then conquering our environment, as he said, it's alarming because we've not conquered our environment. Yeah, once you establish an educational system anywhere in the world, even if it were to be traditional education, the focus of that education was not about making a name, but about social control. So in my study, I studied the socio-political systems of my ethnic group, the Ham people of northern Nigeria. And what I found was that even the establishment of the initiation rites was actually done with a conception to control the environment, to control the behavior of people. So for instance, people had a masquerade, they would call it Nangboji. Until I did the study, we didn't know that the meaning was who was afraid. That was the name of the masquerade. So the masquerade only comes out, for instance, when there is something that is wrong. And then the idea in the heads of our great-grandparents was to fetch out whosoever has committed the wrong. They didn't have a university, as we have, or a polytechnic, but in their conceptualization of the world, they knew that they needed to do something in order to have social control of the behaviors of their people. We do not have that. We rather have a gathering of people who drunk morning in, morning out, evening out, just to graduate. And I am a graduate. But beyond being a graduate, there are qualities. And these qualities are actually what we're talking about, that we're in the short supply of them, because when you earn a certificate anywhere in the world, it is said you are given this certificate in character and learning. You have to look at, from a linguistic point of view, character before learning, which means that the learning that you have undertaken should have transformed your character. So character comes first, is the main product that we want, not the learning. The learning should produce character. This is not the case. When you walk in the streets, people who play horns, people who insult people in Nigerian streets, they are educated people. Now, so it means that we have not conquered our environment. People who beat traffic are educated people. So there is a huge concern with the kind of education we are offering. Is it just an education for the correction, or is an education that is aimed at achieving a goal? And this goal should be, how do we get tomorrow to be better than today? I would say that in my few years of life, I have seen good roads anyway, maybe better roads. But in terms of quality of life, I cannot say that what we have today is better than what I witnessed as a child. I told my children lately that I never bought a shoe, but I never knew that you could buy a shoe by the roadside as a child. And my father was merely a soldier. We bought shoes from Leonard's, we bought shoes, Leventis, and Bata. Today, when you buy a good shoe in Nigeria, God helps you if the shoe lasts 6 months, if you trek like some of us do. So we've not conquered our environment. Education should actually help us as a people to go beyond where the previous generation lived. So I wouldn't say that I am happy with the quality of education that we offer in Nigeria.
Okay, you're not happy. Okay, while Dr. Hayab was speaking, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi just came in. He's Registrar Based University. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure.
Okay, we are discussing this the 7-year moratorium on tertiary institutions, but I'd like you to just relax, take your, relax. But we'll come to you. But let's come back to Professor Haruna now. Earlier on, you talked about the universities not being attractive to the youth, to the young ones. And one of the, I guess one of the reasons why government placed that 7-year moratorium is for, the institutions to be, improved in terms of quality, to upgrade facilities, and also to recruit qualified staff. What do you think, how do you think government can actually increase or expand the capacity of staff now?
Well, I wish I have read a document from the government saying that we have put this ceiling because of A, B, C, D. They always said no more establishing of new universities without giving us, well, if they have given the reasons. I'm the Secretary of Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian universities. So I deal with the 299 universities.
I think one of the reasons is that most of the universities are even underpopulated. There are some universities, just like he said, like he noted, that we had 800 students and we have 1,200 lecturers. You understand?
Yeah.
And there are some institutions and universities where maybe polytechnics, colleges of education, where no application at all in a single year.
Yeah.
So they're just there.
Yeah.
Those are some of the reasons why government is, coming up with this, policy for a year.
Well, first, they should tell us these universities where we don't have students.
Yeah.
Look at the location where the university is.
Okay.
That is one. The quality of staff that are in that university, how are they recruited? Who are the movers for the establishment of this university? Perhaps most of these universities where you have well-populated students, they might have come from a motion from the parliament somewhere. And then we have a schedule in recruiting lecturers. Say, for example, you want to establish a department. We have what we call staff mixed. Okay, you need a professor, you need a reader, you need senior lecturers, you also need lecturer one, you need graduate assistant. The reason being that there will be continuity of training. But now you go to these universities, you have non-teaching staff, more than the lecturers. Because of what? It has become a constituency project. Appointments are done because the man who, or the lady who push for the establishment of these universities are controlling what goes there. And they want to show that I have provided jobs for my community. So these universities, perhaps from my own experience, there are universities who have been established, perhaps not well thought out. Location, the leadership in that university, and the kind of support and the funding. Thirdly,
so which means that what you're saying is that the policy cannot address the issue of under-enrollment.
Of course. The reason being that there has not been proper thinking. Maybe they just established that university thinking TED Fund will give the money. And you see, the money TED Fund has is thinning out. So no, you hear a big figure. It's like an allocation. Even the way TED Fund gives out money, from my own, well, if I am to suggest, it should not just be we have given so many billions. No, a certain percentage of what TED Fund collects should be dedicated to the universities or higher education. And it can be gradual. But now, every year we have given so many billions. Another year, so many billions. Just like we have insurgency, we have insecurity all over the place. Instead, as governors are saying, go back to your farms. Instead of providing tractors and fertilizers, they only send trucks with foodstuff. and hand it over. You give 2 bags of rice to a family of 20, and you said you are trying to mitigate insecurity, and you are encouraging the people in the IDP to go back to their farms. So to me, this is just the approach, an approach which is not well thought out. So, well, let's just be more serious,
About education.
About education. We have these professors of education. Where are the researches made by these professors and making recommendations? Early universities, you hear of Ashby Commission, you hear of this commission, you hear of this commission. Okay? But we don't have them now.
Is it government now that is the issue, or the AUC? Because I read that even the minister was actually not happy with the NUC's decision of just issuing out, licenses to, for the establishment of universities.
No, NUC does not issue a license. NUC recommends.
Okay.
That's all the feasibility studies.
Okay.
Then if government is not happy with what NUC is doing, just like they have set up a committee to look at the ASU demands and whatever, they should also assess the recommendation by government from an independent source. And they can come back to NUC and say, well, we have discovered this and this may not likely work. But if NUC does her own recommendation and they send it and it is approved as fake, how can one come back to the NUC and say NUC has not done the job? Okay, NUC was established more than 63 or so years ago, just like the body I'm leading, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, almost 63 years ago. And successively you find recommendations coming from these bodies.
Okay.
And that was why they were established. Initially they were established as in the cabinet office, so that government can really understand what is going on.
Okay.
But today, I'm not even quite sure the views of the NUC or Committee of Vice Chancellors is really adhered to.
Okay.
But we are still talking. You see, our task is to simply advise government to provide a direction that will help the country, not to condemn government.
What you're saying now is that the vice chancellors are not being carried along in all these policies, decisions that government makes.
Well, there is always interaction with vice chancellors.
Okay.
Okay? But do they really listen to what the vice chancellors say? All right? Again, if you appoint a vice chancellor through the kind of political gymnastics we see, what do you expect to come out of it? You see, I was a vice chancellor. I was in Gashua. When I was asked to establish the Faculty of Law, I said, no, Gashua is not right for the Faculty of Law.
Okay.
There is Faculty of Law in ABU. There is Faculty of Law in Maiduguri. What I'm going to specialize on, the people from, well, the herders are moving from that zone south. Okay. And there is plenty of grass on the river Yobe.
Tapa grass.
Good. And this grass cannot be eaten by the animals. So what I did, I entered a partnership with a university in America and in Spain. I said, let us look at this grass. How could we turn this grass into animals' feed so that we can stop the migration of our brothers and sisters going down to other parts of the country? And within 1 year, honestly speaking, this grass, we were able to harvest it and turn it into animals' feed. But I refused to set up Faculty of Law. But there was pressure to put Faculty of Law because that zone is good for agriculture. Secondly, I recruited a professor from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. I said, why is it that maize cannot be grown in Gashua? So he came. You know, this rural farming is established long time in Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And this guy came, we were able to eat maize for the first time. But there was NISA, Northeast Development Cooperation between the EU and the Northeast governments.
Okay.
But that place has become a carcass. And why? A university has come, something which has been established for many years by the European community, and it has been handed to us. We have not been able to do anything. And I said, we have a good Faculty of Agriculture. NISAP is what we are going to partner with. These other things go somewhere else.
Okay. All right, Jumai.
Okay. Let me bring in Professor Abiodun Adeni into this conversation. Thanks so much for joining us. You've been listening to what our guests have been talking. Let's have your opinion on the moratorium, on, establishment of new universities. But while I was reading up yesterday, I found out that some private universities were approved before
the moratorium.
Yes.
While the moratorium was being announced.
Was being announced. Yeah. So what's that all about?
Well, my own understanding is that sometimes when government want to moderate or when they want to be regulatory, they come with what looks like a sense of force. But it's also coming against the background of thoughts that we are having too many universities that are not necessarily viable, that I've had some of my colleagues here refer to, and how they're not viable. We are having too many facilities. Government is having to invest in infrastructure, human and material. Materials, human and, invest resources, human and material, and no results. Results will have been having more students or more students that we are presently having. So it's becoming concerning, really, and they thought, okay, what do we do in this circumstance? Should we put a break to this thing? And that's why I think government came about with the moratorium. But I think it has been underscored as well that the moratorium only relates to government universities, states and federal universities, not necessarily state, because I don't think the government has oversight over the states, except they want to exercise it through the NUC. But private universities are not yet affected. And what they have told us that maybe with time, they might consider putting moratorium on private universities as well. But I don't know. Nigeria is...
So the private universities are not affected?
No, they're not affected.
So
from the report that I saw.
From the report?
Yes. Private universities are not affected by the moratorium. Just federal universities, not even states, are said to be affected. Okay. But what they also said is that they might look at private universities later to see whether they should continue to register them or to discontinue it. But again, I think I'm coming to it with mixed feelings, because I know Nigeria's population is huge and burgeoning, and continuously so. Prof just talked about Nigeria having 299 universities now, quite a lot. And how do you situate that within a population of over 200 million people, where the quest for university education is unceasing, and we're also die-hardened about certification. And when we're talking about certification, we're concerned about certification at a very high level. And universities seem to epitomize this. And again, if you match Nigeria alongside other populous countries in the world, you will see that in terms of quantity, we are probably not at par or even nearly so with them. Brazil, for instance, has universities in thousands, just like Indonesia, and I think Malaysia and India to some extent. And if you look at the United States of America, their population versus the number of degree awarding institutions they have is also very high. The United Kingdom is not doing badly, but if you want to match us with these countries, that have these institutions in their thousands, we're nowhere near where they are. So in terms of trying to say we want to come close to them, we might be thinking of saying, okay, we don't have enough universities yet, so let us register more.
What about the quality?
No, I'm coming. Let us register more. But it shouldn't just end within that framework. There's also a sense in thinking about our kind of economy. Our political economy, is it viable enough to stomach more universities, considering how capital intensive it can be on both sides, on the side of government and even on the side of private investors. There are quite a number of private investors in this country that if you check very well, they are not very viable. Even private investors, they are not very viable. They are not what you understand universities to be. And they are practically just struggling in different layers. And this may not be their intention. Universities are ordinarily supposed to be established as one, to give back to the society in terms of the development of human capacity, right? Sometimes they are established to preserve a legacy or to preserve names. It's hardly a profit-making institution, entity. The essence is to grow the society through the stimulation of the society's human resources. But if we misunderstand, that purpose for something else, then of course there will be problem like we are somewhat having now. At the point it was becoming like something that you can describe as fashionability, a sort of bandwagon effect, where the average big man just thinks that, okay, I have enough resources, now let me establish a university, through school fees, some levies, I can thrive. But by the time you get into it, you see that it is capital intensive and it is continuous, okay? You need physical structures they have to be conducive, and you need human resources at different levels. Professors are not easy to pay, What about other non-academic staff? Several of them. And you have a required number that you need to mount every department. I think Prof also alluded to it. All these things don't come cheap, and it's continuous. Now, how much are you going to pay? How much are you going to charge the student that will be commensurate, or that will help you even up, that will help you meet your financial needs? And that's why public universities will continue to complain, because our political economy is not strong enough, to manage the ideal university we're probably envisaging. And what about the private universities as well? Yes, I've talked about it earlier. But what's the way forward, really? I think moratorium might just be a government-owned approach to dealing with what is appearing to be a menace. Okay, it's born out of what I can describe as governmentality. But will it work? Because it's been said that, okay, 7 years, then after 7 years, what's going to happen? What conditions led to this moratorium? What if those conditions are resolved even before the expiration of the 7 years? So we don't have clarity in that area. But to say that what government has done isn't a welcome development, I think to some extent it's something that can be that we can comment, but comment with care, really, with caution, because it's just saying that government is aware of the registration or the mushroom of universities that are not necessarily viable. And this shouldn't be so, because I also had him talking about quality. Quality can also be very, very concerning. What quality of graduates are we really producing? And how are they impacting on the society? Are we not getting embarrassed by some scholars, some graduates that we are seeing in terms of their productivity, their outputs? Is it what a university graduate should actually look like? Then how do we grow this? How do we grow this? Then how do we compare with universities elsewhere where we are easily celebratory? Is it ever possible for us to compare favorably with them in terms of productivity and efficiency? So those questions can be very disturbing, if at all we can answer them. And in trying to answer them, I think government is thinking that let's just manage the situation for now by coming up with a moratorium.
Okay.
But there has to be an outcome to it, really.
Okay.
Trying to manage the situation now.
So, we need to remind our viewers that our lines are open for you to send in your text messages, and we can take them to the guests here so that they get text messages and comments so that our guests will respond to them. I actually have one or two that came in. Let me read them because we have another topic coming up in a while. Let me read them. Engineer Omeyon from Jos said, the proliferation of universities and orders is really bad, rendering the standard to its lowest ebb. The moratorium is a welcome development. Government should go beyond that by merging or closing down substandard universities or polytechnics. And Olanipekun from Ibadan said, I genuinely believe that this approach presents the greatest opportunity for enhancing our educational landscape. It is crucial for the government to concentrate on improving the standard of the current higher institutions we have. Now, Dr. Hayab, let's talk about the moratorium itself. How far is it going to go? It does not affect, like Professor Adini said, it does not affect private universities. So what happens to the government universities if we continue to have private universities being approved by government? What happens to our students? What happens to the common man's child that wants to go to go and get?
That is a big question. I think, while we were having the conversation, one of the things that crossed my mind was that maybe some people out there do not even know what the word moratorium actually means. Okay. So moratorium, a moratorium in the political term is an official embargo or ban on anything for a period. So once you place a moratorium, whatever that is supposed to be done at that time has been officially put on hold.
I think the moratorium it also covers that of the private universities as well.
No. What he said, based on what I have read,
okay.
I would actually support the last comment that you made, that many people believe that this is a step in the right direction. The only problem is that after this, and so what? So the philosophical idea behind bringing about the moratorium is the question that we need to deal with, and this question actually aligns with it. So once we place a moratorium on establishing public universities, particularly at the federal level, given that the state too cannot do much in terms of the number of universities that a state can actually manage, what happens then to the teeming young people who are coming from low-income families? Which universities would they go? So yes, that is a big question, and we need to actually look at it. But the only fallback, we would say that these universities that have not had many students, maybe this time around, we would now bring them to the open and encourage students to apply to go if possible.
But like you said, the environment matters.
Yes, the environment.
Some of these universities are in,
areas
places
that
where
are
they
inaccessible.
have insecurity.
Yes.
There.
So one of the, like all of the speakers have said, the politicization of education is the most dangerous thing that we've done. From my little travel experience, I've not seen universities in typical interior areas, whether in Europe or in the parts of Africa that I studied. But in Nigeria, I know some universities that are not in an area that I would wish to send my child to go. At least education, schools used to be established in the bush when we were growing up, but with the rate of insecurity now, no boarding school, for instance, in Kaduna State that I come from, that is in the bush. All the secondary schools that were in the bushes were actually, children were taken away from, including the one that was closest to the town, the Bethel Baptist High School where I taught, and then everything had to go to the city. That is already a danger in itself. So coming back to where our children will end up, that is the big question.
Yes.
We need to look at the number, and the people in the low-income cadre, they are more than the people who can afford private universities, because an average public university in a year is 2 million naira, and that is the salary of an assistant director in the federal civil service, annual salary. So it means automatically a person, and anybody who is an assistant director must have been in service for a minimum number of 20 years and must have read to a minimum of a master's degree, or in most cases. Now, so if they cannot afford to send their children to the cheapest, and this university that is 2 million should be the cheapest,
yes,
than the ones, so we need to have a rethink. But then I'm not calling that the moratorium should be lifted. I do think that coming back to your message now is that, and the message of these two speakers, that what do we do with the moratorium? Is it just a moratorium because it's not just like an act. It shouldn't just be like an event. We've done it, and then we need to create what Professor Haruna talked about, the conversation. I would suggest to the Honorable Minister of Education that this is the time for the conversation, for the dialogue. Talk to the people who are in this business. Understand why, all the whys. Once you can answer the whys, then we will now be able to say, okay, what are the next steps that we are going to take? These universities that are also placed in the cities, they do not employ based on merit. They do not, most Nigerian universities do not employ based on merit. You're either looking at the religious background of the person, the ethnic background of the person. I have a story from a university closest to my house that a colleague of mine who I know is a very fantastic teacher when it comes to measurement evaluation. He went there to be employed because they needed somebody in the reader cadre, and he's qualified. And unfortunately, I'm a Christian, maybe I'm not supposed to say it, but the question was that, is he one of us? Whichever religion that the person was speaking. How could you talk about an academic, about being one of us? When you fly an aircraft, do you care to know the religion of the pilot? The question is no. You are interested in landing safely. That is the way an academic should be engaged. It's the capability of the academic and not where the academic comes from. Unfortunately, these are some of the things. So yes,
some of the things
affecting the quality
of education.
Yeah, so you meet people who tell you, I'm a professor. You engage them, you know they are not qualified to even earn a first degree by the content of what comes out of them. When you go somewhere, you meet academics and they talk to you. They simplify issues. Here we are still talking about using terminologies. Terminologies is not knowledge.
Yeah.
That is one thing. It is said that anybody who cannot simplify an idea does not know, he doesn't have a command of that idea. So you keep calling big names. I've been involved in teacher training in Nigeria and across the states. I can tell you that when I meet people who train people from universities, sometimes I shake my head in disbelief and in shock that, is this the way? Because you see them and they're quick to tell you, I'm Professor this. Because we use titles to intimidate. One other thing is that, in my experience, this is the only country where an academic is equated to a rich person. Nowhere in the world, nowhere I've ever been to that, because you have a PhD, people think you have money. You have a wedding, you invite an academic to come there. No, I do not attend weddings as a chairman. I said, if you have a school speech and prize giving day, invite me. That's where my usefulness comes. If you have a seminar, invite me, I will come. I don't even need you to give me money. If it's in my community, that's part of my community service. But a chairman at the wedding, even a person who cannot write his name, can actually be a chairman at a wedding. Isn't it to say, we wish you happy married life, and then you donate some money? So the issue is, we need to go back to the drawing board. Yes. After the moratorium, which is okay for now, what next, Prof, is the issue that we should be talking about. And I will honorably call on the Honorable Minister to call the people who are in practice to discuss with them, because he might have a good intention, but I'm not sure he knows exactly what the situation is.
Or what the problem
what
lies.
the problem are.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hayab. Okay, so we have more questions and comments here. This one is says, good morning all. Establishing universities as a constituency project by legislators has willed off the good intentions of establishing a viable, character and knowledge-based university in Nigeria. This one says, good morning to you all. I really love your program. Please and please, federal governments and lawmakers should stop establishing more tertiary institutions and concentrate strictly on how to have a high standard. That's Aaron Lafon. This one says, kudos to the minister for his findings. For more transparency, publish and transfer other overpopulated lecturers to institutions that are lacking in lecturers. And this one's from Abbas, from Jalingo, Taraba, says, the 7-year moratorium declared is one of the best policies of this administration. However, we hope the government will support and provide the adequate needs of existing universities. Otherwise, the moratorium will be meaningless. So, Professor Haruna, I want you to respond to some of these comments. And also, I want you to respond to what Professor Adini also said concerning how to, how government, what mechanism government needs to put in place to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of this moratorium in order to, in improving the quality of education we have in the country. What do you think they should do? What mechanisms do you think they should put in place?
First, research.
Okay.
Let us have an informed data. And this data must come from research, not just a public pronouncement. And the good thing about the Minister of Education, he's been working abroad. He's one of the well-known physicians internationally. And now he is here at home. But I think he has a big challenge. The data which will give him the informed decision, perhaps it's not there. But rather, people come with some ideas and say, look, do this because So I think the problem is overwhelming. So the solution to this is proper research, and we have the universities, we have the professors, we have the experts, all right, to do this. Secondly, let's go back to history. When we want to have the policy on education in Nigeria, you bring a professor who is a specialist in the field. This was the days of the Babs, far from us. One of our greatest, educationists. If you talk about education, he already knows it on his fingertips. But today, we have, politicized things. We put people from different fields into areas which is not their own. And therefore, they rely, I'm sorry to use the word, sometimes sycophants. And then they come up with a solution to a problem, and then suddenly the society tells them you are wrong. So I think we need to get the right people in the right places so that nobody can deceive them.
So do you see the moratorium as a sustainable policy, just a temporary, response to a bigger problem? We're looking at a bigger picture.
I think it's a response to a bigger problem because we realize that there is a danger. Okay. The Chinese have a saying, if you are traveling and you go 1,000 kilometers and you realize that you have made a mistake, it's not a shameful thing to make a U-turn so that you can correct, but you shouldn't continue. So I quite admire the courage to say, look, let's reflect. And as a scholar, if I want to solve a problem, I just don't look at it locally. First, I look at in history, where was this problem experienced? Then I analyze that. And I say, okay, today, where is this kind of problem taking place? Again, I look at the outcome. Then I say, where do I situate myself? That's when you have a solution. So perhaps there was something like that. I don't know. But anytime we want to come with a solution to a problem, particularly education, let's look back to history. And this history, not only our history, other societies. We always cite, for example, Malaysia. Okay? How did Malaysia pass us? Singapore. Okay? So I don't want us to be a lamenting nation or as if we are not making progress. Nigeria is a beautiful place. The indices that makes Nigeria look bad, we should try to find a way to surmount them and attract people. Every day. I was just appointed to an international organization, and I was telling them, how do you want to operate here? First, I told them, you got to reorient the minds of the people you want to engage. And if we do that, Nigeria will be a beautiful place. Because nobody wants to run away from Nigeria. But the issues or the environment, the kind of thing that goes there. So the embargo, to me, it's okay for now. But let it not be too long because the population is growing. And there will be demand for higher education.
So 7 years is too long?
Well, I cannot say it's too long. But maybe government may even come back and say, no, we have realized that after 3 years, we need to change this.
Okay, maybe the quality has been improved upon. Okay.
But we should not politicize it. We should not approach it with, a political mind.
Okay.
We should look at it and put a study into it. I will give you an example. There are a lot of proliferation of bodies coming to supervise universities, professional bodies, while the NUC is there. Now, NUC came and said, look, we are not going to allow this to happen because we have our statutory role. Immediately, as Secretary of Committee of Vice Chancellors, I said, look, let me look at how much money did the university spend on those kind of programs which were carried out not from the NUC, so that I can look at whether there was a waste to help us decide on how to move on, not because we hate those bodies. So research is critical to understand where we can move on. So I encourage the boldness of the government to come up and say this.
Okay.
But with public universities.
All right.
Private universities is just like language policy. You will say, like, Nigerians are free to teach their children with Nigerian languages, but the government doesn't have the teeth to control this in private schools.
But most of the private schools are of quality now, because if you look at the ranking of Nigerian universities globally, the number one university right now is Covenant University.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the private are doing a lot, investing, man, quality, and everything. But
Professor Adeni is smiling.
Professor Adeni,
He's smiling.
yes, I want to.
Sorry, I'm not trying to enforce myself in.
Okay.
Before Professor Adeni talks,
Yes.
he's coming from a private university.
Yes, coming from the private
All right.
university.
Now, most vice chancellors in the public universities are not even allowed to do what they are doing. What am I saying? So, one, too many oversights. The little money they have to focus on research, they are always on the route to Abuja every day. Too much interference from outside.
You mean in the private
universities? In the public universities.
Okay.
So if you come to a private institution like this, they have a program. You must achieve A, B, C, D. They wake up every day thinking
new
of what
ideas.
to achieve. Okay, I'm a I'm a pro-chancellor of a private university. So I understand that. But now, again, I was a federal vice-chancellor. So I saw why almost 70% of my time was not in administering the university. Receiving guests from this body, from that, oversight, come budget defense, come and do this. So they don't have time to think, to even provide the leadership. So, however, there are very excellent vice-chancellors despite the challenges.
There are.
Who are doing
because
well.
Most of these private universities actually outsource from the
public universities.
No, from the public university. There are excellent vice-chancellors too, but they should be left. For heaven, they should reduce the interference in the public universities. Okay. The trips to Abuja should be reduced. The so-called oversight, I find it even if it is legally right. I, as a member of parliament, I don't see why I should go to a university to be looking at buildings and say that I have come for oversight. I should be busy by making laws that can really improve the quality of lives of Nigerians.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. Oh, let's begin, Professor.
No problem, Prof.
Let's begin, Professor. Professor Adeni, just like we said, we noted that if you look at the rating of universities in the country, at least the private university is number one, even in West Africa. You talked about that the number of universities may not be even equal to the population compared to other, countries. So how do you think government needs to balance? You understand? Balance, they need to improve education quality with the demand for increased access to tertiary education. What way do you think?
Okay, good question. But first, maybe we should remind ourselves of one element in the report. I mean, the announcement of the moratorium, which we are here to underscore, except I missed it in our conversation so far. NUC said that the new administration in NUC inherited about over 500 demands, for university licenses, over 500. And out of the over 500, about 70 were considered. And of the 79 were recommended for government's approval. Okay, so what that tells me is that the demand for it is increasing. The demand for private universities is still increasing, and it will continue to increase. Perhaps that's why the government said they will look at that at a later date, whether or not they should tamper with it a little bit. But what we should also underscore is that in any part of the world and in different sectors, most of the time you find that it is the private sector that is more vibrant, much more robust. And that's why we talk about capitalism that encourages private sector to thrive, to drive the system and the society, particularly in the sphere of economics, essentially. We can see that even into other sectors of the social system as well. Okay. And education cannot be absent in the matrix. Some of the best universities in the world are probably private universities, At best, you could see some collaboration with some powerful civil society organizations or some element of collaboration with government. But the private sector actually drive efficiency and productivity in any system where government is supposed to simply be regulatory, as the case could be. But predominantly anyway. But again, so if private universities are doing better or they are trying to do better, it's not going to be something that is unusual, considering how they can be quick in making decisions, how investors, proprietors can be concerned about leaving that legacy that I talked about earlier, and how would they leave the legacy if they compromise quality. And of course, you realize that parents, guardians, they are paying a lot for their awards. So if they are paying so much for their awards, you want to give them value for their investment, for the money they are paying. So those are the principles that drive the efficiency that we're gradually noting in private institutions, as the case could be.
Okay, we have some messages still. Let me take this message from Dr. Nasir Bello. He said, "Good morning, Nigeria. Tertiary institutions are agents of national development. The 7 years moratorium is 7 years embargo to national development. Don't forget we have more than 200 million brains in this country." That Dr. Nasir Bello. And one of our guests, a respondent who didn't write his name said, "I really love this program. Please, the government should stop employing people into the education sector based on politics. It should be by merit. By so doing, they are helping us to meet the high standard that we need." Let's bring in Dr. Hayab in this conversation. So how do countries, outside Nigeria, balance expansion with quality? And what lessons can Nigeria learn from it?
This is where the whole problem starts. I think the compromise of excellence in Nigeria started, maybe I can still recall how when I was growing, I've told this story several times. I attended a primary school in a typical village where you could not access until on a market day. I was up to primary 2 before a road was constructed that passed my town. But I could read in that village. I was taught by excellent teachers whom I still remember their names. Most of them have passed. When I left and I went to secondary school, I attended secondary school in Kaduna town with people from all walks of life. Our teachers were of excellent qualities. And it didn't matter where they were coming from. My teachers in Form 1 were mostly Igbo, Agwa Ibom, and mixed with people from the north. It wasn't a matter of where a person was coming from. I think the real thing is the day we compromised excellence in this country and started to look at sectional interest, that was the death of our university
Almost
system.
Everything in this
because I do have a good experience of meeting former lecturers from Ahmadu Bello University outside of Nigeria when I was a student. In Ghana, I was always received by lecturers who taught at Abuja, who eventually left for the University of Ghana. Once they heard that there was a boy from Abuja, this person will invite me to dinner, this one will invite me to dinner. When I went to South Africa, I met the likes of Nuru Faradin in literature. These are the big names that we read. He had taught here at the University of Jos. When I was in Hamburg, I worked with Professor Ludwig, who was also taught at the University of Jos. And, the likes of big name, is this guy who has a very big name in African studies and politics by the name Ali. He had worked in Nigeria. Alu Mazure. He had worked here in Nigeria. So we were able to attract the best of brains. The Ezekiel Mpalele from South Africa taught at my department in Zaria. Now, so then today if you go to Zaria, the big Abu Zaria that we're proud of, that we used to say the biggest university in Sub-Saharan Africa, you might be surprised to find that the academics come from maybe one state, one ethnic group. You can't grow a university like that. We just need to call this spade a spade. You go to University of Ibadan, you will find the same thing. Most of the lecturers come from one area, one ethnic group. There is no way the diversity that is in the world universe because the word university comes from the word universe, which comes from every walks of life. Then we are trying to regionalize the academic system, going back to the era of the second generations of Nigerian universities, because after University College London, Ibadan, which was formed for Nigeria, which should have been the University of Nigeria anyway, that would be a debate for another day. Then the next generation of universities were regionalized. ABU, University of Northern Nigeria, then IFE, then you had University of Nsukka today. Even at that time, even with the sectionalism of those, locations of those universities, the people they employed were of quality. It doesn't matter where you were coming from. When the ABU we eventually got Professor Audu Ishaya, I've read about it, when he came from Lagos, all the first-class students that time from ABU's area were sent to go and study masters and PhDs. The likes of Kwanashi, Mike Kwanashi, and George Kwanashi, brothers, but because they were excellent minds, they were sent by the university to go and earn PhDs and come back to work. And anyone who attended ABU in the Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Social Sciences would definitely readily, relate to these names, the likes of Bala, Usman, and all that. What happened? What happened? So we've compromised. We're trying to expand, but we're not expanding with the sense of excellence. I would say that one of the things I learned from Professor Abdullah Mahdi of blessed memory, when he was in Zaria, his own daughter did not pass. She didn't meet the cutoff mark. She attended FCE Zaria. That's the vice chancellor who had whatever it takes in the Nigerian way to make his daughter attend ABU Zaria. She attended FCE. I, Philip, ABU was my second choice. From a village I knew nobody in Zaria. My name came out on the newspapers because I scored. I met the requisite mark. So that's why I'm always proud of the ABU of the time. If we can go back to that time where somebody does not need to know nobody, but out of merit will be admitted to the university, the same thing, somebody does not need to know anybody, would be made a lecturer in a university, expansion does not matter. We will catch up with the world.
Okay,
but once we don't do that, we're gone.
Because of time, maybe we'll just take your parting shot, Professor Haruna. Concerning this discussion, this 7-year moratorium on tertiary institutions. What's the way forward? In just 60 seconds?
Yeah, the way forward is a time for reflection. Let us reflect, and by the time we lift this ban, we will move forward. But I pray that there should be serious research reflection, to look into what made us to do this.
Okay.
Finally, when we want to establish these universities, we must be, when we lift the ban, we shouldn't go with the mentality of those kind of things he mentioned, so that we don't turn our universities into glorified secondary schools within a particular area.
Okay.
We want to see diversity. We want to, in both staffing and students. Lecturers should come from outside the country, but we must also understand when we have actually, using the Zubredayah's words, useless our professors, we cannot admit lecturers from other countries.
Okay.
Rather, our graduates, our lecturers will move to other places because Nigerians have fantastic brain.
Okay. We're the best in the world.
No,
Professor Adeni, in 30
Professor
seconds.
Adeni,
Yeah, 30 seconds.
I think government should be concerned about, supporting the universities, in the manner in which they are concerned about supporting their comfort.
Okay.
Government prioritizes comforts around personal comforts and even official comforts, and they pay maximum attention to those. The way they are concerned about infrastructure as well, about utilities as well, the university should not be excluded from this matrix, because nothing works for a better university, a quality university, much more than a conducive environment. Pedagogy thrives, in comfort. And predictability also thrives, where the environment is most suitable. Learning is very tricky. If it is disrupted because of lack, it cannot be productive. government should pay attention to this.
Doctor?
Government should pay attention.
30 seconds.
I believe the moratorium is a welcome development. We need to make use of the time to study, understand, and take proactive actions to curb the menace that we have found ourselves in.
Thank you very much, Dr. Philip Hayab, an educationist. Thank you for your contribution this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Also, I want to thank Professor Andrew Haruna, Secretary, Committee of Vice Chancellor of Nigerian Universities and President, Nigerian Academy of Letters. Prof,
thank you
so much for being part of today's discussion. The last but not the least, I want to thank Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who is the registrar based university, always willing to come. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we delve into our second conversation this morning. Stay with us.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.